Have you ever got a crafting project stuck in your head and you just had to work on it for hours and hours until it was done? That is what happened to me this weekend with the Merchant Wagons. I was browsing the Tabletop Crafters Guild website when I noticed someone had made some major improvements to the dollar store wagons I had previously taken a look at, and it stuck in my head. I really wanted to make a really cool merchant wagon out of these rather plain dollar store toys. And it turned out that the Hearst art store that I previously molded and casted were a perfect fit for the wagon. So I saw this as a sign. I had also been working on using green stuff with the roofing tile texture stamp. So for the first wagon, I cut some foam core in the middle so it would be much thinner, so I could use this for the wood sides of the wagon and other little bits and bobs I would need. This was a bit of a laborious process. I wish there was some sort of Proxxon machine that could help me out, but unfortunately I don't know of any machines like that out there. I was really happy with the thinner foam core wood siding and smaller tiles that I made for the first wagon. I think I just got lazy with the second wagon, and frankly, it didn't look as nice. Again, if you are going to try it this way, I would suggest you use a very sharp knife and just go very, very slowly with consistent pressure. It's just one of those things you have to practice. There is no big secret about getting wood grain texture on this sort of foam core. You just have to press down lightly with something that's slightly dull, perhaps a pencil. I happen to use the side of a utility knife with most of the texture on this. I knew I wanted the first merchant wagon to have a unique look and have the first little bit uncovered. I couldn't figure out a very technical way to do this, so I ended up just cutting the hard plastic top, the first little bit off with a pocket knife. Certainly not accurate, certainly not safe, but it got the job done, and what I saw in my mind was slowly becoming reality. Well, let me tell you something, for a dollar store toy, this had some very high quality, stiff plastic in there. You generally don't see this sort of plastic in cheaper dollar store toys like this. So now the time had come to arrange my Hearst Arts castings. Now, I had molded and casted these bits previously, and these were mostly ones that were kind of off-kilter and didn't work out all that great, so they would look good from one angle, but unfortunately from other angles they would look weird and broken. So these are perfect for that, because once the top is on, you can only really look into the wagon and not see the little bits from other directions. So I gave all the Hearst Arts pieces a very basic paint job. You might be wondering why I didn't prime them. Well, these are actually going to be inside the wagon, so nobody is actually going to be touching these. And generally speaking, with this sort of resin, if nobody's going to be touching it, then the paint is going to stay on there just fine without a primer. Dry brush, wash, highlight, and then maybe a little bit more dry brushing. Basic techniques, but with a project like this, this is perfectly fine. Now, I had a big plan where I was going to have lanterns on the side using these little crafting beads, but when I actually put them in there, they kind of looked nice just as general baubles you would find on a merchant wagon. So no lamps, just baubles. So at this point, I'm going to start building up the peaked roof with a bit of cardstock from a mixed nuts box, and I'm going to start fitting on my pieces of green stuff that I had already pressed into the mold and let age for about 8 hours. I'm going to cut these in half and make the peaked roof, and it's going to look a little bit strange, but I kind of wanted to have it be more of a fantastical type of wagon rather than anything realistic. So of course in 2 parts the peaked roof looks pretty terrible right now, but I'm actually going to build that up by first putting another piece of cardboard kind of on the tippy top, and then arranging a number of styrofoam tiles to make a tiled roof peak. And frankly, I made life for myself a little bit difficult here. If you're working with very thin pieces of styrofoam, super glue that I was using will dissolve it partially, and this almost ruined my tile roof. Now, luckily it looked fine once it was painted, but I would suggest you try some other adhesive. I know Blackmagic Craft sometimes uses hot glue. I had tried that before, but it ended up kind of burning through the roof bits, so the super glue worked okay, but just bear in mind that if your material is thin styrofoam, it will sort of dissolve through it if you're not careful. And I think the process that I used of adhesing the green stuff to the cardstock and then the cardstock to the actual plastic using two different types of adhesives, both the general purpose adhesive, kind of like the goop adhesive, and then using super glue for a quick bond, it worked out pretty good. But you do have to hold together the two materials for a long time until that super glue completely bonds them together. You know, the biggest hassle for this whole thing was just waiting for certain glues and paints to completely dry so I could work on the next bit. I assumed working on 2 wagons at once would help me out, but I think in hindsight I'd probably just focus on the one wagon, because the second one kind of turned out a little bit bland compared to the first one that I was really focusing a lot of my attention on. All in all, I was very happy with the setup on my first wagon. All the little bits and pieces that I had put on, including a couple of matchsticks for extra texture, looked fine. Now, the second wagon I decided to do in a bit more simpler manner. For some reason, I decided to just use full-size chunks of foam core for the sides and not do the texturing that I had previously done for my shed craft. I really regret not doing that because it didn't really turn out as nice looking. It still looks fine from the top down. The sides just look a little bit wonky compared to the much nicer Wagon 1. So now we move on to the painting. If you are using styrofoam, I would suggest you use the Blackmagic Craft method of using Mod Podge and paint as a priming layer to seal in all that texture and to protect the styrofoam for the rest of your crafting. Sadly, the video footage of me painting is gone. If you're interested how I did the wood grain, I basically did a variation on the Blackmagic Craft version. I used a very dark brown-gray base coat, and then dry brushed it with some orange-brown, and then once that dried, some tan, and then I hit it with some heavy, strong-tone Army Painter ink, which is my absolute favorite wash, and that's how I got this very easy wood grain on the wagons. And there you have it, folks, the final product of my vision after seeing that post on the Tabletop Crafters Guild. I wish I knew who posted that. I literally saw it during my lunch break at work and just really had an idea, I want to do something like that. So I apologize to this anonymous poster. You probably know who you are. Please let me know if you're out there. But yes, that post definitely inspired me to try out this modification for myself and put my own spin on it. I am really looking forward to being able to use these in a physical game. I certainly learned a lot of lessons when doing this craft. There's a lot of imperfections, which ended up looking fine in the final product. I really thought I ruined this build a number of times, but it all ended up looking pretty dang good. And even the top tiles, which I assumed I had ruined on the green wagon, ended up looking fine as well. I really enjoy the amount of tiny details that I added to this wagon. I think it's just really fun. Most people probably won't even know these things are there, but it's just very amusing to me to make something so complex using bits and bobs that I know I probably would have never used for any other purpose. Here's another shot showing how the roof was certainly fine on the second one, but that one big wall thing there, I wish it would have added a little bit more detail on that. But from the perspective that you're going to be seeing these on a gaming table, they look really nice. So what was the cost of this craft? Well, I tried to break it down. It's very difficult to calculate some of these things, but the number that I got was about $11.75 for both these wagons. And that number is a little bit meaningless if you didn't have fun making it. And despite the fact that I put 10 plus hours into this craft, dang it, I had a really fun time doing it. I guess in the end, there's only one question left. Whose wagon is this? You see, you people in the comments who have been calling this guy a farmer all these years, you were wrong. He was never a farmer. He was an adventurous merchant. He just happens to be a pig enthusiast. I hope you enjoyed watching this video because I really enjoyed making this craft. I hope this inspires you to go out and make something of your own. Or maybe take a look at some of the other websites on the Tabletop Crafters Guild website. I'm sure you'll find plenty of inspiration out there.
Have a great day, and as always, thank you for watching the video.